Hello chaps, Troy Francis here, coming at you from Mexico City. And what I want to talk about today is the importance of vanity. Now, interestingly enough, vanity, although not one of the 7 deadly sins, because it's often lumped in with pride, which is somewhat similar but not entirely similar, the 7 deadly sins originated from a document which was called the 8 Evil Thoughts, which was written by, I will refer to my notes here, a chap called Evagrius Ponticus. Okay, so he came up with the 8 evil thoughts. And one of those thoughts was vainglory. Okay, vainglory, which is kind of where we're coming from when we talk about vanity today. Now, of course, if you look at the roots of the word vainglory, it is talking about literally something in vain, okay? So glory that is vain, that is in vain, glory that's not really founded in anything, okay? So there was always this sort of sense of vanity being something that was unfounded, that's somehow not deserved, if that makes sense. And so for that reason, unsurprisingly, it has a pejorative sense about it. But what I want to argue in this video is that actually, far from being a negative, vanity is essential in dating, and particularly dating in 2023 going into 2024. All right, so why is that? Well, basically, people will often talk about confidence, won't they? People will often say, well, bro, you just be confident. You need to be confident, man. And you do. You absolutely do need to be confident. But in my opinion, that's not enough. What is confidence anyway? It's kind of going out and putting your shoulders back and trying to not breathe so quickly and talk more slowly and think well of yourself and positive affirmations and all of that kind of thing. And all of that stuff is great, and you can appear confident if you do those things. But it's different from vanity, which I suppose another synonym for is narcissism. It's different to narcissism. So as we know, and as you will probably be aware if you've been following this channel or if you've been following similar, kinds of discourse on the internet, narcissism is one of the so-called dark triad of character traits, which are not only tend to be attached to those who are very successful in business and life in general, but also those who are romantically and sexually selected by women. So the dark triad is Machiavellianism, psychopathy or lowered empathy, and narcissism. Okay, so again, narcissism, vanity, this thing, however we want to label it, keeps coming up. And again, those dark triad traits are on the surface seen as being negative. It's a pejorative. They're dark triad. It's not like they're light and happy triad. They're dark triad, okay? So this stuff is always labeled as being negative. These are undesirable traits, in theory, from the point of view of mainstream society at any rate. But as I say, I'm going to argue that actually vanity or narcissism is essential in dating. Why is that? Well, as I said, confidence, we think about confidence, okay? But confidence is only really going to take you so far. It seems to me that when guys talk about confidence, particularly guys who are not confident and certainly not vain, or certainly don't think highly of themselves, it's almost like putting a sticking plaster on the wound. It's kind of going to help for a bit, but it's not going to solve the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is that you don't buy into your own myth. You don't have a personal myth about yourself. You are not in love with yourself. Now, there's a cliche that, again, gets talked about a lot in the mainstream, which is you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. And I don't quite mean it in the sense that it's meant when people say that. In fact, I don't fully understand what people say when they mean that, to be honest. I think that you can absolutely love another human being and, be quite negative about yourself. I don't think those two things are incongruent. I kind of know what people are getting at, but I don't think it's really true. But you cannot be attractive, or you cannot be optimally attractive, unless you are completely in love with yourself, okay? We live in an age of extremely shallow narcissism that is writ large across the whole culture, Okay, what else do you think Instagram is for? What else do you think TikTok is for? Okay, it's for people to display their narcissism to the world, men and women. And in many cases, women are better at this than men, and they can amass bigger audiences more easily by posting beautiful pictures of themselves on Instagram in bikinis in beautiful places and getting thousands and thousands of millions of likes and feeding their narcissism. Okay, this is the culture that we live in. And if you lack that vanity, if you lack that narcissism, then you're kind of going to get overlooked. Okay, my contention is this: you need to have an idea of yourself in your head. Okay, the hero version of yourself, if you like, and you've of course got to be working towards achieving that vision for yourself. So if your vision for yourself is, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, I'm going to have a 12-pack, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. Of course, every day of your life, you should be working towards achieving those things. But you've also got to be aware that within you, you hold the power to make that happen. And you've got to be 100% confident, not only that you can make these things happen, but that in time, you will make these things happen. Because you are a genius, because you are powerful enough, because of the inner workings that you have that are unique to you alone, that you know beyond any shadow of a doubt that you are going to achieve these things that you want to achieve. Okay? When you have that knowledge in yourself and you're convinced of that beyond any shadow of doubt, then guess what? You can walk around and you can be vain. Now, outwardly, you may not have achieved yet all of the things that you want to achieve. But it doesn't really matter because you know that you have the potential to do it. You know that it's going to happen. It's just going to be a matter of time. It's a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. Okay. You've just got to kind of build this fantasy version of yourself in your head. And you've got to go out believing entirely that that is you. Okay. And this serves two purposes. The first purpose is that people tend to buy into what is reflected to them, okay? So if you go out and you behave as somebody who is someone, okay? You go out and you behave as if, because you have this inner vanity, you have this narcissism, you go out and you behave like that guy, then guess what? A lot of people, a lot of women that you encounter on the dating scene are going to just buy into that because, you know, yes, women have this female intuition and stuff, but they're not mind readers. And for the most part, we tend to just accept at face value what people present to us, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that in being convinced that you're going to achieve these things, it's much more likely that you will actually achieve these things, okay? So when you visualize something for yourself, when you visualize a persona for yourself and you fall completely in love with that persona and you communicate that to the outside world, then guess what? Slowly, over time, you become that persona, okay? And I experienced this in my own life. I've told the story many, many times that I used to be very self-deprecating, self-loathing, actually. You know, I used to really dislike myself. And then, through a combination of events, which were largely fueled by a lot of alcohol and a lot of other substances, I started to act in a different way. Okay? I started to act in a much more cocky, much more arrogant, much more narcissistic way than I ever had before. And I really didn't give a damn what anyone around me thought. I assumed what would happen is that people would react very negatively. I'd probably get beaten up. I'd probably get drinks thrown over me, whatever. Actually, none of that happened. Actually, what happened for the most part, and there were people who thought, you know, I was an idiot and they didn't like me or whatever. But for the most part, what happened was my social life rocketed and my dating life rocketed because women were attracted to that persona that I was putting out. And a lot of that persona, and I'll be completely transparent here, a lot of that persona was based on my vanity. It wasn't based on the actuality of anything I'd achieved. I wasn't in amazing shape. I mean, I was very slim, but I wasn't in great shape. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a great job. I wasn't living in a cool place. What else? I didn't have any expensive clothes. I didn't have a Lambo. Still haven't got a Lambo. I didn't have any of the external markers at all that you would expect somebody to have who behaved in the manner that I behaved. But I still behaved in that manner anyway, and it drew people to me, okay? It was a complete exercise in vanity. And for me, a lot of the vanity actually comes through the intellect. I have a lot of intellectual vanity, okay? I think that I'm cleverer than most other people. I probably think that I'm cleverer than I am. It doesn't really matter, okay? It doesn't matter what the objective truth is of this. What matters is what I think about myself and what I project to the world. And it's an incredible defense system, okay? Because usually, if I go on a date with somebody, right, and however beautiful they are, or charismatic, or funny, or witty, or, you know, all of those things, always on that date, I will think that I'm better than them, subtly, okay? And it might not be that I think I'm better looking than them. Sometimes I think they're a lot better looking than me. You know, I'm not under illusions about that. But I do think that intellectually, I've got the edge, okay? Now, again, that could be delusional. It could be wrong. But it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. What matters is that's what I think. And that's reflected in my behavior on those dates. Okay, so when I'm sitting on the date, I think that I'm subtly better than the person that I'm on the date with, okay? What does that mean? Well, it means I'm a cocky, arrogant bastard, yes. But it also means that the normal power structure in these things, which is that the woman is pedestalized and the man is trying to impress her, is overturned, or at least it's equalized, okay? Because I'm not really trying to impress, I mean, I am trying to impress her to some extent, but I'm not really trying to impress her because already I think that I'm on a higher level than her, rightly or wrongly, okay? So that means I'm chasing her less, and it also means that subtly it is conveyed to her through my demeanor and my behavior and the way that I react to her and everything else that I believe that I'm better than her. And that's intriguing because why the hell does this dude have the balls, you know, the effrontery to think that he's better than me? There must be something good about him. What is it that's good about him? That is interesting, okay? Now, contrast that with the average chump who's on the date and he's doing everything he can to try and, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, please, please, please like me, and trying to make her like him, okay? If you are the opposite of that, you can't help but be intriguing because most people aren't doing that, because most people, most guys, don't think highly of themselves enough. Most guys don't have the superiority complex that I have. Again, rightly or wrongly, I'm not talking about objective truth here, I'm just talking about my own delusion or my own self-perception, okay? Most guys don't have the ridiculous sense of their own self-importance that I have. And so most guys end up getting friend-zoned, okay? You see what I'm saying? You see the connection here. So mindset is very important, and having a healthy degree of vanity, or even arguably an unhealthy degree of vanity, is hugely attractive. And as I said, it's also kind of a defense mechanism in a way, because even if you get rejected, and obviously that happens, rejection is part and parcel of life, it's just part of the game, even if and when you get rejected, it doesn't sting as much because that sense of your superiority still remains. You still think that in some way you were better than the person that rejected you, okay? I mean, it might be disappointing. You might think, well, it's a shame that happened and, oh, I wish I'd have done things a bit differently or whatever. But it doesn't matter that much because you still have that vanity, okay? You still have that huge sense of yourself, which is unimpeachable, okay? Which is, it cannot be touched by the outside world. So what I would encourage you to do is firstly watch this video back so to make sure you understand what I'm saying, and then try to think of what aspect it is of yourself that you can develop this vanity around or this narcissism around, okay? And then when you go out, lean into that, okay? Sometimes these so-called negative qualities, and, you know, it was on the original 8 evil thoughts list. It's almost one of the 7 deadly sins if you lump it in with pride. Actually, regrettably, because this is just how the world works and how human nature works, it can also be useful to you. It can be useful as a strategy for you, or not even a strategy really. I don't use it as a strategy, it's just the way that I am, okay? It can be a very, very useful mode of being through which to operate in the world, okay? So I think that a lot of you, to be frank, and you watching this now, maybe that you're one of them, I think that you don't think highly enough of yourself. I think that you put yourself down too much. I think that you don't focus enough on what it is that makes you great, what it is that makes you unique, and you hide that under a bushel, and you go on dates with women, or you go out to social situations, and you sit there thinking about all the ways in which other people are better than you. And that is completely the wrong way around. What you should be doing is going out and thinking how everybody else there is a bit of an idiot compared to you, okay? Or maybe there's some other aspect that you've got. Maybe your physicality is really great, so you can lean into that. Or maybe, you know, you're really great at a particular sport or a particular, you know, job or hobby or whatever it is. Something that you can lean into. And you therefore think, well, everybody else is kind of mediocre compared to me. And that is a much better way, a much more effective way of entering into the world, entering into the social sphere, than sitting there thinking how much better everyone else is, okay? So, vanity, it's good. Narcissism, it's great. Lean into it, develop it, nurture it, make it grow, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to jump on a free call with me to discuss your dating life, you can do that. There's a link below. I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.